On Monday, Dr. Phil McGraw, famous from television and best-selling author John Grisham, spoke before Texas lawmakers who had only last week abruptly stopped the execution of a death row inmate. Following his last-minute reprieve on Thursday, the inmate Robert Roberson was supposed to speak, but due to a flurry of court filings and squabbling, the hearing was postponed. His appearance was postponed Monday by the House Committee on Criminal Jurisprudence, which instead heard testimony from several other witnesses. A Texas law intended to give recourse to those convicted based on junk science is being examined by the committee. In an attempt to prevent Roberson's execution for the murder of his 2-year-old daughter Nikki, the bipartisan committee successfully subpoenaed him last week. The now mostly disproved shaken baby syndrome was the basis for Roberson's conviction. According to McGraw, who thinks that in some circumstances the death penalty is appropriate, Roberson's jury did not fully understand the case and Roberson was wrongfully convicted. This opinion is shared by numerous medical and scientific experts as well as the case's lead detective, who now acknowledges that he made a mistake. Regarding Roberson's case, McGraw told the committee, "I am absolutely certain that we are facing a miscarriage of justice here. Because I don't think Mr. Roberson has had due process in this matter, I say that. He hasn't, in my opinion, yet received a fair trial in this case." Learn more about Monday's testimony and the reasons behind Dr. Phil's attendance at the hearing. Dr. Phil testified, but why? McGraw, who has a degree in clinical psychology but is not a medical professional, has been closely following Roberson's case, has spoken with the prisoner several times, and has worked with the Innocence Project to perform important research. In a recent 2-part program, he examined the dubious forensic evidence that supported Roberson's conviction, paying specific attention to the now disproved shaken baby syndrome theory. These occurrences brought to light questions regarding the validity of the evidence and the trial's impartiality. The Robert Roberson, is he innocent? And shaken baby syndrome, junk science and the man sitting on death row specials brought up important issues regarding out-of-date medical knowledge and the possibility of a wrongful conviction. Given the high stakes, McGraw underlined the significance of re-evaluating the forensic evidence used in Roberson's prosecution. The death penalty hangs in the balance here because if we get this wrong in a case like this, I think the death penalty could come under real attack, he stated. Roberson's innocence was further supported by testimony from John Grisham, the firm, A Time to Kill, who had earlier written a column on Roberson's case. For what offense was Robert Roberson found guilty? In 2002, Roberson was found guilty of killing his daughter in the city of Palestine in East Texas. Roberson claimed to have heard Nikki sob and discovered that she had fallen off her bed. He added that after calming her, they both fell back asleep. When Roberson awoke later, he discovered that Nikki's lips had become blue and that she was not breathing. At the medical professionals noticed signs of brain death. The following day, she was declared deceased. Although the toddler had pneumonia in both lungs, pre-existing ailments for which she was prescribed narcotics that are now prohibited for children, and untreated sepsis, doctors and investigators at the time hastened to conclude that Nikki died of shaken infant syndrome. The chief investigator in Roberson's case admitted to making a mistake in his probe, and shaken baby syndrome has been substantially disproved as junk science on USA Today's The Excerpt podcast. Robert is a completely innocent man and we got it completely wrong, because we were looking for the wrong things, Brian Warden stated, adding that he was mistakenly led to Roberson's guilt by his confirmation bias and several misunderstandings. "I was mistaken. I failed to spot Robert. Robert was not heard by me," Warden remarked. "Now that I know, he's a good man. He's a good man. He is a man of grace. Additionally, he did not do what I and the state of Texas have accused him of doing." Why Robert Roberson's execution was postponed. The Texas House Committee on Criminal Jurisprudence, which heard hours of expert testimony in Roberson's case last week, unanimously decided to subpoena Roberson and set up his testimony for Monday, 4 days after his execution. This was the first step in the dramatic process that resulted in the stay of Roberson's execution. Despite the subpoena, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, which performs executions, told USA Today that it was preparing and planning to proceed as normal, and was carrying out the execution as planned Thursday. Soon after, Texas Republican Representative Jeff Leach and Democratic Representative Joe Moody argued before Travis County Judge Jessica Mangrum, asking for a temporary restraining order of the execution so they may execute the subpoena and hear Roberson's testimony. The Texas Criminal Court of Appeals reversed Mangram's decision when the state attorney general's office promptly appealed the temporary restraining order that Mangram had granted. Leach and Moody pushed the battle to the Texas Supreme Court, filing an emergency application for a stay of execution to allow Roberson's testimony on Monday, even though that option eventually failed. If TDCJ, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, follows through with executing Mr. Roberson on October 17, it will forever deprive the committee from hearing Mr. Roberson's valuable and relevant testimony to which it is entitled, they said. His testimony is extremely valuable to the committee and the Texas public as it will further the committee and legislature's policies of ensuring fair and just administration and execution of laws within their jurisdiction. In order to accommodate the testimony, the court consented to halt the execution. In a brief on Monday, Republican Governor Greg Abbott broke weeks of silence in the matter by requesting that the Texas Supreme Court reject the lawmaker's subpoena. Abbott contended in an amicus brief that the court's Thursday order would violate the state constitution's separation of powers and that only the governor has the authority to give mercy, including a 30-day respite.